Good morning. It's Thursday morning, and we are here to gather up some wisdom from the book of Proverbs, from Solomon, the wisest man in the world. There's a lot of wisdom to be had from this book. We're going to gather up a little bit this morning from Proverbs chapter 19, verse 11. In the 1970s, a famous psychologist named Paul Ekman suggested that there are 6 core human emotions. These are things we all feel. We don't have any control over the emotions themselves, but we can control the way we react to them. He said that the 6 core human emotions are happiness, fear, disgust, sadness, surprise, and anger. Now, of those 6, the one that can be most dangerous and have the most negative impact is anger. Fear might be a close second, but anger can be dangerous. It can damage relationships. It can destroy relationships. And that's why the Bible has so much to say about anger. The Apostle Paul in the book of Ephesians says to be angry and sin not. So it is possible to be angry and not sin, not to allow it to boil over into words and actions that we will later regret. Be angry and sin not. And also, there is something that we would call righteous anger. The Lord Jesus exhibited this when he went into the temple, which should have been a house of prayer during the Passover, but they had turned it into, the money changers had turned it into a money-making operation, and Jesus went in and overturned their tables and took out a whip, and he was angry, and he was righteous in his anger. But let's face it, for the most of the time, our anger is not righteous, and we want to be able to control it. So Paul says, be angry and sin not. James, in his book, says that the anger of man does not produce the righteousness of God. So, with that said, here is Proverbs chapter 19, verse 11. Good sense makes a man slow to anger. Good sense makes a man slow to anger, and it is his glory to overlook an offense. So Solomon offers a couple of tips to those of us who struggle, as I did when I was younger, who struggle with anger. The first tip is to be slow to anger. Good sense makes a person slow to anger. The New Testament has a word that is sometimes translated patience, sometimes perseverance. I like the King James translation of long-suffering. The Greek word literally means long-fused. The person who is quick to be angry is the person who has a short fuse. We even use that expression, somebody with a short fuse. Something happens, somebody says something, and that person just boils over and explodes and says things and does things that he shouldn't. But we're to be long-fused, slow to anger. Now, there are some practical things we can do to be slow to anger, to be long-fused. We can count to 10. You've heard that, that practice. When you start to get angry, you feel like you're going to do something you shouldn't or say something you shouldn't, count to 10. Not out loud, of course. Just take your time, let the boil go down to a simmer. So that's one thing you can do. Another is to sleep on it. Go to sleep. Now, we're also told not to let the sun go down on our anger. So if you're angry with your spouse or you really need to deal with this with another person, do it and then go to bed. But if you're angry about a situation, it's just kind of consuming you, one option is to just sleep on it. And I bet you won't feel the same way in the morning. It will have simmered down. You will explore some better options than you would have had you acted on that anger. So the first tip is to be slow to anger. Good sense makes a person slow to anger. The second tip at the backside of that proverb is to first is to be slow to anger, and the second is to let go of the offense. It is His glory to overlook an offense. Doesn't mean it's right, whatever that person did or said to you, but you can overlook it. You don't have to get angry. You don't have to sin. You don't really even have to go to that person and deal with it. You can overlook it. That's an option, to overlook an offense. Now, if you're on the receiving end of anger, there's a beautiful verse. This isn't our verse for this morning, but it's a companion verse in the Proverbs that says, "A gentle answer turns away wrath," or "a soft word turns away wrath." In other words, you can say things that will cause that other person to calm down, to not be angry. So you can control anger from two different positions. Either as the one who is angry, and you can be slow to anger. You may overlook the offense. You can also help another person who tends toward anger to not be angry, with a soft answer, with kindness. So there are a couple of tips if you are like every other human being who deals with the problem of anger. Don't allow it to boil over and to cause you to say things or do things which you will later regret. So have a wonderful Thursday. Check out our Bible study that we had last night, and have a wonderful day. God bless.